Hey, Amplifiers, Kenny Harper here, and we have an awesome guest today. You know, at the end of the day, we've got to start thinking about something. We got to start thinking about what are the biggest business mistakes and how to avoid them. Because if we're getting in business and we're looking to improve, but we run into mistake after mistake after mistake, we're going to be running into the wall, right? So the topic today, we have a guest, which I'll be introducing in just a moment. But we're really talking about, you know, these 10 biggest mistakes and how to avoid them. And as a bonus, we're going to be thinking about some of the questions we can start asking so we can start thinking about how to avoid those mistakes. Because mistakes are costly and questions provide answers. If we ask better questions, we get better answers. And so some of the things that we'll be talking about are some of the key questions that every aspiring business owner needs to ask. And if you're in business already, that's fine too. We just really want to make sure that we're avoiding those costly mistakes. So successful businesses are not about great ideas. They're about handling risk and staying competitive. And the key is to know thyself. Before we get further along in this, I want to make sure that we get into our goals of today. We want you to participate. So if you're seeing this live or if you're tuning into a replay, make sure that you're asking questions. If you have questions that come up, we do check our past questions and try to get them to our guests. So be proactive with that. Share your comments. If you have thoughts or opinions on something, we want to hear from you there. Sometimes you might have a resource that comes up, so we want to hear from you there. And make sure that you take action. The segment's all about taking actions, so we want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. Now, our guest today, let's get a great introduction here. Our guest today, Patrick Burke, is the managing partner of Burke and Schindler, PLL, in Concentric Wealth Management. He's passionate about helping entrepreneurs start, grow, manage, and build valuable businesses. He's advised more than 200 successful startups and is an expert across multiple disciplines, including mergers and acquisitions, business financing, and deal structuring. He's on the board of directors for SMS Holdings in Nashville and UASI in Cincinnati, and maintains many different securities and licenses. He lives in Cincinnati with his wife and is an avid swimmer, cyclist, drummer, which is pretty awesome, and grandfather, which is even awesomer. And his new book, The 10 Biggest Business Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. So welcome to Growth Amplifiers, Mr. Patrick Burke.
Great to be here, Kenny. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Thanks to have you. Got a lot that we're going to unravel today. And let's kind of just get started with talking about a little bit more about you and who you are. So you've got this great book, The 10 Biggest Business Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. We know you're a CPA, but what really qualifies you to write a book of this title?
I guess the number one qualifier would be I've made most of these mistakes myself.
Yay!
So that's, well, yeah, it's after the fact, it's a yay. While it's going on, it's anything but a yay, right? So that's, honestly, I felt like, experience is the best teacher, but it's also the most expensive way to learn. And if I can help somebody do better more quickly, then I feel like that is kind of my duty to do that. And that's really what spawned the book, is just seeing people do the same wrong things over and over. And it's like this, there really is no need to do this. And if you can learn about it quickly, the book is, under 100 pages. It might take you a couple hours to read that. And if you avoid even one of these, it's time well spent. That's for sure.
So I highly think that's an important thing. I mean, it's too easy. We get tunnel vision. We're in the flow, and we can easily just run right into wall after wall, and a lot of it could be avoided. So,
well, yes, it's very difficult. And most entrepreneurs start off, right? They're working in their business and they're working on their business simultaneously. So it's difficult to have the correct perspective when you're chief cook and bottle washer. And most people start off that way. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up that way as well.
It's far too easy. If you're tuning in, just want to check this out. If you're looking to learn a little bit more about Patrick and his company, you can go to burkecpa.com. But if you're interested in checking out the book for yourself, it is available on Amazon. You can go to this URL. We'll put it in the chat feature, and it'll also be in the link. But it's amzn.to/3h9tdxn. We'll get back to that in a moment. But I'm curious, who should read this book?
Well, I think it's anybody who's considering starting a business. I mean, that would be, if you could catch all these in advance, that'd be wonderful. But also, I'm speaking to a group of an EO group here, an entrepreneurs organization, next week, and it's a number of the people in that group are those who started businesses, or either like mid-cycle businesses, or they're getting towards to the end of their ownership of it, and they're trying to make sure that they've set it up so that it is a saleable business, that it has durable value, and it's not just something that's been more or less an incorporated job for them. So I really think it's anyone on the spectrum of starting to exiting that thinks that maybe they could improve some aspect of the business.
And I love the fact that you're really holistic when it comes to helping businesses. You help from people who are just getting started off, people who are already in business for a while, but then also how to land the plane.
Yeah, all important. I think so many people really don't plan for that. It's like, as I tell them, either someone or no one's going to own your business someday, right? You're not going to live forever. So let's plan on it being someone and you creating some real value between now and then.
So you've got some great content. I've seen you have several books, a wonderful practice with an amazing team. Very impressive.
Thank you. Hasn't been easy. As I said, I've made plenty of mistakes along the way, so it's live and learn. That's all right.
So let's start off by thinking about, maybe on the early side, maybe a few of the questions that you might want to consider asking yourself. Maybe some of the questions that are commonly overlooked.
Yeah, I think what I consider the number one question is the business that you're considering something that you add considerable value to? And I think that is a often overlooked aspect of the business. And if you're not the best player at the key position, you should be second best player at several key positions. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful. And I think a lot of people see a business, hey, wow, that's priced right, kind of like the industry. But let's just say, for example, the owner of that business was generally, and this is what I find, that people who start businesses are really good at sales and production, or at least one of those. And if I look at business as a three-legged stool, so there's sales, production, administration. So very few super successful business owners are just really good at administration, right? They're usually salespeople or production people. So, I'm not saying if you're extremely adept at administering, you can't own a successful business, but I would suggest in those situations, you're probably better off with a franchise where the sustainable advantage has been developed over the course of years. And if you follow the recipe and you're adequately capitalized, chances are you're going to be reasonably successful.
Right.
Something else, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with that talking point. I saw from some of the material that you've shared that I've been able to review. Success in business is not just about great ideas. It has a lot to do with handling risk, staying competitive, which you're speaking to now, and the key is to know thyself.
That's that's it is interesting. I mean, I've had many different experiences dealing with would-be entrepreneurs, and I always, as I say, it may not be that they eat risk for breakfast, but it usually isn't on the menu still at lunch, and I've had situations where people have gotten to the 5-yard line on the deal, and they got the financing, they've negotiated the price. And I can think of one instance where it was a buyers, and they were both people who'd been right-sized, if you will, from large companies and had never owned a business before. And they wanted the owner to stay on for 5 years. And he was like, look, I'll stay on for a year, but if I'm going to stay on 5 more years, I'm going to continue to own the company. That's not mitigating my risk. And they wanted to put a big piece of the price on an earnout. And it was like, well, if I'm going to be there 5 years and I've got all that risk, I'm really not selling the company. I'm kind of leasing it to you. So that didn't work. They also, I think people, even if they've got, they've amassed some wealth, and they sort of say they're willing to risk that, but then you ask them, well, what have you done that would indicate that you have a good relationship with money? And they, as I point out in the book, if it's more like your baseball card collection and you pull out your portfolio and look at it from time to time, but you really haven't made a career of, not that you need to be, completely risk tolerant, but if it's something where, hey, look, I've never risked any money in my life. I had a conversation with one of my relatives at a wedding earlier this summer, and he had been worked for a couple of different companies and had some payouts, some venture-backed things where he'd rolled equity into some new ventures and came out with some money. And I said, are you ready to buy a business? And he said, I've been thinking about that. I'm 51 years old. I've never owned a business. And you know what? I can't do it. I cannot put everything on the line. And I know to buy a business of the proper size, that's what I'd have to do. And I'm not willing to do it. And I said, well, that's, back to your point, know thyself. If that's the case, then don't do it. It's fine. Actually, he ended up getting a job with a sort of a barely post startup where he's got some opportunity to earn some equity. So good for him.
It's interesting as you're mentioning that you got something, a little gear cranking in my mind. So I'm a growth coach and an advisor that works with businesses that are looking to grow, either get more customers and clients, or grow the average value of the customers and clients they currently have.
Right.
And I've run into a couple situations where someone who is, let's take a bookkeeper who they were working in another company, they worked a career, and then the owner's like, hey, do you want to buy the business? And then they did. And then they're starting to have some challenges because they haven't really been an owner before.
Yep.
And some of the mindset and some of the, I guess, skills or traits, character traits that may be helpful to help them succeed aren't quite developed. So somebody's in that situation, what might they consider doing when they're like, now I'm in a pickle?
Yeah, I mean, I have a number of clients that I would put into the category of reluctant entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And one in particular I can think a few years back, where the owner of the company just walked into his office one day and said, either you're going to buy this or I'm selling it to somebody else, soon. And he had engaged an investment bank, and he had sort of helped out, sort of setting the stage for financing. And the guy came to me and he goes, look, I had never had the desire to own a company, but now the gun's to my head. He was probably mid-50s. Mm-hmm. And I'm never going to know a business the way I know this one. I've been doing it almost since college. So he bought it, and he's doing fine, but it was a challenge. And I would say that what he has done since then is he started a board, which was very helpful, and people who had been there and done that, and already had the T-shirt, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to say that advisors like myself and his outside counsel have helped businesses of this size before. And I think that's helped. I mean, when you're in this situation, you feel like you're in the battle by yourself. And every day, as I say, and this is true of almost all my clients, every day they're running the biggest company they ever ran, right? So there's going to be times when you're scratching your head saying, I really don't know what to do next. And the more you have advisors that you can bounce things off of that have been there before, that's critical. There's no reason that you have to be at the head of the peloton. Just tuck into somebody's draft and keep going, right?
It's critical. I see time and time again, and have been on the scenic route myself to realize we all get tunnel vision. We all have blind sides. That's what they're called, blind sides. It's the people that shoot themselves in the foot, and this may be you if you're tuning in and hearing this yourself, as if you think, oh, I know it all.
Yeah,
I know it already. Yeah, I know everything. Who says that besides teenagers, right?
Yeah, very few people who've been in business through a down cycle will ever say they know it all. If you only know up cycles, then you're that's hey, just because you had 4 sunny days on a great weekend doesn't mean the rest of your trip's going to be great. So
it's a great quote.
And it won't, right? It just won't.
I was doing some networking once upon a time, and it was hearing some people talking about coaching and advisory, and like, why would I hire someone to tell me the things I already know I need to do? I'm like, you're missing the point. So, Patrick, for someone who's thinking, why would I hire an advisor to help me out if I already kind of know what I need to do? Wouldn't it just take more time for them to tell me? Wouldn't it just cost me money in order to do that? What might you tell someone?
Well, that it's a great point. I think you think about even the best tennis players, the best golfers, they've all got teaching pros that help them, right? And they hold them accountable. And I guess by and large, what they have is there's an objective view of what it is that you're doing versus what it is you want to do. And I think it's been my experience with entrepreneurs is they're extremely, they got 2 lenses. They have the wide angle lens to look for opportunities and threats. Then they have the microscopic lens to work on those 2 things. And they go right back out to the wide angle lens. And that area in between, that sort of middle management area, that's not really where entrepreneurs like to focus. Mm-hmm. But it's those details, those systems, and those metrics that allow you to grow and most importantly, allow the company at some point to be sold at the value that it should sell at and not a discount, or as most businesses don't successfully transition at all. And shingle comes down and that's that. So that's kind of how I look at it.
And so they're finding their way. They may realize, yes, I need to do some things. I need to get some fresh perspective. But man, wouldn't it be great if there was like a book out there that could help me realize what some of the biggest mistakes are so I can avoid them? Wait a minute. I think there is one. I just heard of one recently, Patrick. It's on the tip of my tongue. I think it was the 10 biggest business mistakes and how to avoid them. Yeah. Yes.
And actually, one of those mistakes is not hiring professionals that are going to add value. And I think that when I start that chapter, I point out that this is a disclaimer. I'm a practicing CPA, so your sponsor in this commercial is me.
Right.
But I certainly have helped people not only grow just with sort of new access to capital or helping them start a board or coaching their CFO on certain aspects of the business, but it's also just sort of to gain perspective of having been there and seen the mistakes and made the mistakes. It's very common for particularly, I'd say, moderately successful businesses to think they can't be any better. And honestly, early in my career, I would have conversations with business owners where I was trying to get across to them that this is a great business. It could still be better. And I didn't really have the chops to understand what I needed to say to them to get them to focus on what could be better. Now, a few more gray hairs or a lot more gray hairs, I can go, hey, look, here's what you need to look at. And actually, one of my other books, Accelerate, in terms of operating a business, that sort of distills basic business down to 20 questions. And if in that book, I marched the business owner through the 20 questions, and he has, at the end, he grades himself. So you know if you need help or not. And putting yourself through those sorts of learning experiences is critical, and in doing it early in your career rather than, I think there's a significant misapprehension that, hey, when it comes to time to sell, I'm going to cut the grass and paint the door, and this business is going to be ready to go. And it's not. If it's been too much of you, you don't have middle management, you don't have process and metrics, the smart buyers, and the assumption has to be that all buyers are smart, because most of them are. And the idea of operating on the greater fool theory is a poor way to operate. So don't think of it that way. Think about what the most astute buyer is going to have on his due diligence checklist, and make sure that he can, before they even walk in the door, make sure he or she is going to be to check yes to that. And so really that ongoing process of thinking about what's it going to be like when I sell this, it should be going through your mind from day one. And even if I always tell people, your business should be saleable tomorrow. It shouldn't be, I'll defer that until, and even if you transition it internally, if you give it to your children, whatever it is, it's going to be much more valuable to the next owner if you've done this work in advance from the beginning.
I highly concur. I think I've made one of those mistakes. Is it about not thinking of that period? I built my first business was more doing web design, and I built it up, but I didn't do it in a way that made it easy to transition out of.
It's common.
Rather than selling it, I ended up passing a lot away and transitioning out of it. And it could have made at least some money. It could have been an asset.
Oh no, I mean, hey, and one of the other mistakes that I talk about in the book early on is treating what is essentially a potentially growth business as a lifestyle business. And certain businesses are very, I use the very simple idea of a shoe shine stand. A shoe shine stand or a lemonade stand. It's like, you're going to do that, and when you screw the lids back on your cans and take your box, business is over, right? So there's really nothing much you can do about that. It's a job. It's a business, but it's, I call it an incorporated job. So there's really, it doesn't have any longevity, and there's really nothing you can do with that business to make it sort of a value that you can transfer to a new owner. So that would be, if you got a highly specific consulting company that, it's all wrapped up in what you do, and it's very hard knowledge to transfer. On the other hand, one of the biggest mistakes I see is you see somebody that's got sort of a tiger by the tail, and they become so enamored of taking the money out of the business and sort of all the trappings of success that they don't reinvest the money they should in their business, and in the business, it sort of bumps along and acts as though it's a non-growth business, it's a lifestyle business, and it never reaches its potential. That's here in conservative Cincinnati. That happens from time to time, not probably more because they're afraid to reinvest than they are in having all the trappings of success. But and I've seen certainly both those reasons being a cause of a downfall, if you will.
I could see that, where you're enjoying hey, I've worked on this. I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And if you don't know what you don't know, then you could be sailing along, not investing where you need to, and getting ready to find out when you run into that wall. And it could be avoided.
Absolutely. And it's, hey, you don't have to wear a hair shirt your whole life. I mean, it's important to reward yourself. I mean, you get to the point where it's, hey, look, I've always wanted to, fill in the blank. In the book, I have the protagonist, driving home from work on the day that he just sold a huge account, and he drives by the Porsche dealerships and sees that Carrera S4 or 4S, I guess it's called, that he really wants, and buys it, but didn't really sign the papers yet. And his advisor's like, no, no, you don't need that. That's a $140,000 statement of something that's not yet true. So keep your old Lexus, tear up the paper, and go back to work. Maybe someday it's okay, but for today, not time.
Well, we do have a question that came in. Someone who saw the show was coming up. My company's leadership is holding off on implementing new ideas for developing our business. This is causing a challenge as we never seem to have enough time to make working on our business a priority. So basically they're having trouble because leadership's like, we don't have time to be working on our business.
Well, and I think the common cause of that is not being answerable to the ownership, not being answerable to anyone, right? And that's why, and I don't suggest necessarily a small business doesn't need to have a board of directors where they're actually voting on key business decisions, but a board of advisors that they meet with 4 times a year that will hold them accountable. I see this all the time. I do some consulting with it's not an engineering company, it's an IT company, and the ownership has some, one of the owners really thinks the highest and best use of his time is to continue being an engineer and technician. He sort of cherry picks the things he wants to work in the business on, but he doesn't really hold himself accountable. And it's like, well, either you're going to be the guy that works in the business, or you're going to be the guy that works on the business, but you can't necessarily be both. So, and that company doesn't yet have a board of advisors, but that's what they need. And hey, the old story, the best disinfectant is sunlight. So, opening up the boardroom and peeking in there is critical. And so if I were working for that company and I was frustrated by that, you might start off with sort of a 360 review process with the ownership being reviewed by the folks just below them, and just saying, hey, here's what I see here. We're too busy worrying about billable engagements, and we're not looking down the road at what's next, and it's going to come back to bite us for sure.
Like a circle, going in a circle.
Yeah.
Let's put out the fire. All right, fire's put out. By the way, there's another fire.
Yep, that's true.
So if you're tuning in and you haven't done so yet, make sure to check out the 10 biggest business mistakes and how to avoid them. Our guests today, Patrick Burke, CPA. If you want to learn more about Patrick, you can go to his website. You
can also go to patrickburke.net. So
patrickburke.net as well.
Yes.
Really cool. And Pat, you've shared some great insights thus far. If we can pull out perhaps what is just one of the top pillar mistakes, we can just pull one more mistake out of the good old mistake book to avoid.
Oh, well, this is so common. It's partnering when you don't need to. And I don't know what it is about entrepreneurs. I think they're, by and large, I love them. They're mostly, they're a lone wolf, right? And but when it comes time to hunt, they suddenly want to be a pack animal, and they run around and they try to find someone to go into business with, and it generally doesn't work. And so I always say, look, unless the person that you want to bring on has a skill that you absolutely must have in your business and you absolutely can't acquire it for money alone, then you should bring them in as a partner. Otherwise, find another business or beg, borrow, and steal the money to bring them on as an employee, because it generally just doesn't work out. There's I think I've presided over almost as many business divorces as I have successful partnerships. So be very wary of that, because it is very difficult to pull off properly. And generally what I find is the businesses it works best when the businesses are just doing okay. If they're doing poorly, there's finger pointing. If they're doing well, one partner is going to think it was much more their effort than it was the other person's effort. So
Very
avoid
insightful.
unless absolutely necessary.
And very insightful. I've actually been on the experience of both of those.
Okay, most people have who've been in business more than once. So,
and it was no fun. And the culprit, you ping them. You ping the culprits of the challenges that should arise. Life is a journey. It takes us in different places. So make sure that you have the right people on the boat.
absolutely. It makes it a lot more fun, and your destination will be a far better spot, I guarantee it.
So amplifiers, make sure that you do take action. I highly suggest checking out this book. If all that you did was gain just a piece of wisdom to help you avoid making a very, very costly mistake, wouldn't it be worth it? Perhaps so. And it's an easy read. Check it out. And thank you, Patrick, for guesting, for sharing your knowledge and your insights, and for being the leader you are to help others amplify their business.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it very much.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.